Hey everyone, it's me, your Uncle Herbie, and welcome to Wisdom After the Fall. Today, I want to talk about something that I've noticed. You know, us human beings tend to have common behavioral characteristics and wrestle with a lot of the same problems, even though we think we're unique, when we're really not as unique as we think we are. And one of the things that I see a lot of people wrestle with, and it really gets in the way of their happiness, is what I call irreplaceable syndrome. Somehow they feel that they are irreplaceable. I have suffered from it. I thought that I was irreplaceable. Irreplaceable to my business, irreplaceable to my family, irreplaceable to everybody. So I want to just help you with this, not because I'm trying to downplay how important you are. You are certainly important to where you work, and you're certainly important to a business if you own one, very important. And you're certainly important to your family and your friends and everybody else, but you're not irreplaceable. For those of you who are students of history, this is going to be a little redundant, but if you're not, the president of France was Charles de Gaulle after the Second World War. He was the general who led the Free French army that was in Britain for a while and then became part of the D-Day invasion and fought bravely. The French take a lot of hits for the way the war was conducted, but I think that was mostly the fault of Marshal Pétain and really horrible strategy, but that's a side note. Anyway, General de Gaulle was certainly a towering figure. He was very controversial. You could love him, you could hate him. I think, for example, when I could think as a little boy, I think President Kennedy and President Johnson hated him, but because he was very, very French. One of the problems I think we have with the French is that we're so much like them. We kind of think that the world revolves around our country, and the French certainly feel that way about their country. And you know, Napoleon. Yeah, and let's also be honest, Americans. Again, I'm digressing slightly, but we wouldn't be here without the French, because if the French Navy hadn't blocked the English from evacuating at Yorktown, the war could have gone on. We might have lost the bloody thing. So let's not get too bogged down in hating the French. Anyway, General de Gaulle was a great Frenchman, and he founded the Fifth Republic, which was what they called their country after the Vichy French government fell, and they reformed their democracy, and they became the country that they are today. And the man who was largely at the helm of that during the transition was General de Gaulle, and he was very, very important. But eventually came the time when he retired. And he went off the stage and eventually died. And he gave an interview to a French newspaper called Le Monde. Le Monde means the world. And I'm not pronouncing that well, but I'm not trying to speak French to you today. But anyway, in this interview, he was asked the question, "What's France?" by the interviewer, "What is France going to ever do without you, General? I mean, you led us through the Second World War. You bravely led the French resistance. You put yourself at risk. You reformed the country. You saved it. You yada yada yada. All the great things you've done for France. How will we ever replace you?" And his answer was really remarkable and told me a lot about him. And that was, he said, quote, "The cemeteries are full of men that can't be replaced, or that couldn't be replaced, I should say." And never was anything truer ever said. Cemeteries are full of people that can't be replaced. One of the things I think we all need to remember is what happens right after we die. If you're so irreplaceable, one day just contemplate. Don't contemplate your death, obviously, but on whatever day that happens, it's going to happen to all of us. What's going to happen right after you die? And the answer is everyone's going to go to Waffle House. Life goes on. The sun will go down, the sun will come up, another day will form, your family will get over it. My chair is running into my tripod and I'm making a mess of this. I'm going to fix that. And anyway, make a long story short, the life will go on, is the point I make to you, okay? And all of the problems that you thought were almost insurmountable, and all of the things that you thought you had to overcome, and all of the control you thought you had to exert, all just goes poof, it's gone. Your debts are gone, your worries are gone, your relationship problems are gone, poof. Whether or not you go to heaven or whether, you don't, I'm, by the way, not saying whether you go to hell. I'm just saying maybe there's no afterlife. Maybe, what it's like after you're dead. My children once asked me, "What's it like when you die?" And I said, "You remember before you were born?" That was my answer. I don't know if that's true or false, but either way, we're all headed to something. And all of our earthly problems go with them. All of the feelings that you're having now I'll never forget, I went on a vacation with my family to Disney World. It was me and my wife and our two small children. The big kids at this point were grown and out. They were the children by my first marriage. We had a great blended family, by the way, but at this point they were independent. And we just took the little children, and the big children were born in 1978 and 80. The little children were born in 1990 and 94, just to give you some difference in some feeling of the age difference. And anyway, we were down in Disney World, and I was calling my office about every 30 seconds about some issue that I don't remember what it was. I have absolutely no idea what that issue was. But somehow I felt it necessary to call constantly. And my wife turned to me at one point and said, "What are you doing?" Because this was way before cell phones, and I was running to payphones to do this and calling our toll-free number that I had at the office, driving my staff effing crazy. And my wife said, "What are you doing?" And I told her, and blah, 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 blah. And she said, if our business is so fragile that you have to be in touch with it on a family vacation, you don't have a business at all. And I really took that to heart. And at that moment, I swear to God, she would back me up on this. I stopped calling. I told my staff, you'll talk to me next week when I get back after, I think I was gone 10 days. And that was it. And you know what? The world didn't fall apart. And I found out that I was not irreplaceable. And I found out that I really did have a company, and I had a staff that was perfectly able. And I know that what some of you are saying now, yeah, but we don't have that company and our staff and that, and who I work with. And if you work for anybody else, you really shouldn't be feeling irreplaceable syndrome, because you're simply a cog in the wheel. One of the saddest things early in my career, I don't know if sad's the right word. Unfortunate things is that a lot of people, when they go into retirement, all they talk about is what they did at their companies, and none of it matters anymore. I mean, I've spent hours listening to you guys tell me about their adventures at work, because that's all they had to talk about. And I was in business and I was trying to get clients, and I would patiently sit through it and be as interested as I possibly could make myself be. I'm a really good listener, so I would listen, didn't yawn, but I would always think in the back of my head, isn't this sad? This guy's not talking about his children or his grandchildren or his wife or anything else. He's talking about work in a company I don't know, about a job I don't really care about. And if you're one of those people that you're constantly asking people, what do you do? And you're constantly talking about work and not about family and spouse and hobby and vacation, you've got your priorities screwed up, and you're going to have a very hard time being happy. You are not irreplaceable, is the message from today's podcast. Just let go. And remember that 99.99999% of the time, the best thing to do about anything is nothing, and let it work itself out. You'll have less unintended consequences. I'm not saying it'll turn out perfectly. Sometimes it'll go against you, but it'll go less against you and create less problems than if you just let it go. I'm not saying don't be ambitious. I'm saying don't try to control everything around you. And if you need somebody to keep track of the details, then by all means get an assistant or someone you work with, but just find a way to let go. Trust somebody else. Trust that there are other people in the world competent. Trust that you're here to replace yourself. That means family first, and then fun after that, and work should be the third thing. You should work to live, don't live to work. That's it for today. Have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you next time. This is Uncle Herbie, hopefully sharing with you some wisdom after the fall. Oh, before we go, I didn't even do the commercial message. Shows you what a schmuck I am. Do me a favor and go over to Amazon and pick up a copy of A Radical Reset. This is my idea for a new kind of ism. I call it anti-politism. You'll understand it. It's democracy the way the Greeks practiced it, and it could fix everything in America, along with lots of suggestions about the problems that we face, with hopefully the wisdom of a long life of making mistakes and learning what doesn't work. And this is what will. Pick it up. It's $2.99 on Amazon. It's not going to break the bank. And if you want to go a little further and support the show, do me a huge favor and go over to my Patreon or buy me a coffee, links down below. And if you make a little commitment, a little monthly, I think it's $9 off the top of my head. I haven't looked at it, but I think that's what it is. And you're willing to do that, then I will return the favor and send you a free copy of A Radical Reset. Thank you very, very much. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you next time. This is your Uncle Herbie signing out. I'm picking up the button to do it.